Good evening, dear viewers from Djibouti channels. Here are the headlines of our news editions. The head of state preside over the 10th meeting of the council. Stakeholder meeting of the program. 50 million African women speak out. In Russia, a plane shot down by Syrian army. That were our top story. Under the presidency of the head of state, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh held this morning the 10th meeting of the Council of Ministers on Monday. 3 questions were on the agenda as usual. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and the spokesperson of the government, Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, presented different projects.
La présidence du chef de l'État, Son Excellence M. Ismail Omar Guelleh.
The first question concerns the draft finance law for the final settlement of the state budget for the financial year 2017. In terms of budget execution, the 2017 budget, which was adopted on December 31st, generally received an amount equal to the sum of 123,413,000 Djibouti francs, and on the other hand, recorded for the same period a level of expenditure equal to the sum of 123,352,000 francs. For several consecutive years, the Republic of Djibouti has recorded significant growth rates in excess of 5% in terms of nominal GDP, with controlled inflation at 3%. This rise in economic activity is fueled by key sectors such as services and trade. In the field of services, various large infrastructures projects generating added value and jobs are being realized, namely the construction of new ports, complexes and free zones, the commissioning of Djibouti-Addis Ababa railway line, the realization of the electrical interconnection from Ethiopia, as well as the realization of water supply project to compensate for the insufficiency of hydraulic fluid. The year 2017 highlights a dynamism of the economic activity stimulated by the explosion of the investments, financed mainly by the external financing, having initiated a voluntaristic development of the infrastructures to take advantage of its strategic location and to emphasize its place of regional logistic hub. The Republic of Djibouti is counting on long-term development strategy with the Djibouti 2035 vision to transform its economic environment and to become a middle-income economy. However, this ambitious goal is not without constraints and could lead to a series of consequences, including a growing debt load. The second question concerns a draft budget law amending the state budget for the 2018 financial year. The state rectification budget for the year 2018 is set in balance between revenue and expenditure at the sum of 132,788,032,970 francs. Is a nominal increase in the order of 5,985,550,320 francs, a nominal increase of about plus 4.72% compared to the initial budget forecast for the fiscal year 2018. Domestic resources are stopped at 110,560,000 francs, against an initial forecast of 107,923,000, an increase of about 263,007,000, attributable on the one hand to the tax revenue and more particularly to items relating to direct taxes, as well as expected performances of the Customs Directorate and other shares in the non-fiscal receipts, with an increase of nearly 694 million attributable to various posts, including the post relative to the states, the proceeds from the sale of the shares of state-owned companies owned by the state, the royalties on petroleum products, 1,300,000 francs, and finally, the revenue from the rights administrative fees collected by customs of the order of 250 million francs. External resources, including in the finance bill amending 2018, they are stopped at 19,746,000 francs, record for this purpose an upward variation of about 348 million, or at plus 20.41% figures set out in the initial budget for the 2018 budget year.
And now let's follow the second part of the speech of Minister Reiner, who presented the main project discussed during the meeting.
La troisième question est relative à un projet d'arrêté portant approbation.
The third question concerns a draft decree approving the opening balance sheet of the Urban Rehabilitation and Social Housing Agency in order to intensify the effects of the housing policy initiated by the President of the Republic. It has proved useful to proceed with an institutional reframing. Thus, each of the new institutions created, namely the Real Estate and Land Development Company and the Urban Rehabilitation Social Housing Agency, must now focus on a specific mission in order to intensify the production of equipped plots and social housing, especially to be able to respond to the expectations of the population. As part of the effective implementation of this accounting reform, in an application of Law Number 9 on an opening balance sheet based on closing balance sheet as at 31 December 2017 of the Habitat Fund, this opening balance sheet was validated by the Public Accounting Department. The assets are 10,652,959, which are broken down as follows: endowment 4,991,100,903 francs, expenditure and commitment of 5,666,858,266 francs. The Council of Ministers discussed the meeting between the President of the Republic and President Afwerki, which took place on 17 September 2018 in Jeddah. The prospects of peace between Djibouti and Eritrea are palpable today. The Council felt that Djibouti must continue its efforts to move toward normalization while creating the conditions adopted to resolve with Eritrea the pending issues, that of the demarcation of the border and the return of Djiboutian prisoners. The Cabinet of Ministers sends its thanks to the Saudi government for the efforts of King Salman bin Abdulaziz and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz for making possible the meetings between our President and President of Eritrea.
The Minister of Urban Planning and Environment, Mr. Musa Mohammed Ahmed, accompanied by Mr. Hussein Rirash Roble, and the Director of Environment and Sustainable Development, Mrs. Haibada Ismail, Consular at the Embassy from Djibouti, Kenya, took part in the 7th special sessions of the African Ministerial Conference on the Environment, held on September 19th, 2018, Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. The 7th special sessions of the African Ministerial Conference on the Environment was chaired by the Secretary of State for Sustainable Development of Morocco and Vice President of AMSIN. The theme of these special sessions is achieving environmental policies through innovative solutions. The conference, which will run until 20 September and is being held by African environment ministers, has discussed environmental challenges in Africa and the promotions of sustainable productions and consumptions. The main issues to be discussed for the 4th sessions of the UN General Assembly on the Environment scheduled for March 2019. Also taking part in this meeting were the representative of international and regional organizations and representative of the diplomatic corps. The Minister of Commerce of Trade in close collaboration with the Minister of Women and Family and sensibilizations workshop around the project named 50 Million Women Has the Floor. This project coordinated by a team appointed by COMESA. It will contribute to the economic empowerment of women by providing a digital network platform that will enable women entrepreneurs to access information and financial services for funding support. This will contribute to a new dynamic that links them together to foster peer learning, culture and the sharing of information and knowledge within communities. This will enable them to access trade, finance and business opportunities between urban and user areas and transnational borders. This 3 years project, which is in line with the African Union's Agenda 2063, will cover different countries of the three sub-regional communities, namely Comesa and the EAC. This workshop brought together senior officials from the Minister of Trade, the Minister of Women and Family, as well as the Minister of the Budget, women entrepreneurs, and finally anonymous women entrepreneurs.
Peers, mentors and advisors to each other. This will allow women to share lessons, success stories, as well as conduct business online with their counterparts in Africa and beyond. Furthermore, it will provide an interface between women and financial service providers, thus promoting easy access to financial services.
A new wall was inaugurated yesterday in the village of Dukum in the region of Tejura Prefecture, with the participations of the Prefecture of Tejura, local elected officials, and the General commanding the French forces in Djibouti. Despite the realization of a water supply in February 2050 founded by UNDP, the water problem still persisted in this small village of Dukum. The rainfall the weak water network, the Dukum Residents Association had received technical and financial assistance from the French force stations in Djibouti. This envelope made it possible to equip in solar pump the traditional well of the village in order to remedy the lack of water which worried the population. The well equipped with a new solar pump was inaugurated yesterday in the presence of the Prefect of Tejura, Abdul Malik Mohammed, and the Region Council and the Brigadier General Eric Garnez, the commander of the French force stationed in Djibouti. The population of Dukum participate in the event and thank the donors and local authorities for concretizing the fight against water scarcity in the village. On continental news, Nigeria has declared the state of national disaster after severe floods that have left 100 dead, said Tuesday, September, the main relief agents in the country.
The Nigerian government on Monday declared a national disaster over flooding that has affected 4 states, Kogi, Niger, Anambra and Delta. The declaration was made by head of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, on behalf of President Buhari, who had last week declared that duty. Hydrological authorities in the country had warned that with the rising level of water in the Niger and Penny rivers, a flooding situation was to be accepted. Government subsequently allocated 3 billion naira, about $8.2 million, to cater for medical and relief support for persons affected by flooding in parts of the country. Parts of the country have occasionally been hit by the flood, leading to loss of lives and property. NEMA has always teamed up with the state government to provide relief.
Anti-aircraft fired down the Russian military plane after an Israeli attack on Syrian positions, killing 50 people on board, Moscow said.
Syrian anti-aircraft fired down a Russian military plane after Israel attack on Syria position, killing 15 people on board, Moscow said. Russian state media say Syrian missiles shot the Martin patrol aircraft down amid an attack by Israeli jets in the Latakia region of northwest Syria. Moscow blamed Israel for putting its aircraft in the line of fire and say it had only a minute's notice of the strike. In acknowledgement of the military activity in the region, Israel expressed sorrow for the loss of Russian life, but blamed the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad. The Israeli Defense Forces say it had followed well-established protocol in the communication with Moscow, which are intended to prevent such an incident. The incident presents Moscow with a diplomatic conundrum as the country has a strong relationship with both Israel and the Syrian regime.
Here we finish this news. Thank you for watching us. Goodbye.